Hey guys, my name is Matt Johnson, and today I want to talk to you about this little camera, the Insta360 One X. And I want to answer a question that I've been asking myself for a while, and that some of you may have been asking too. Is it time to purchase a 360 camera for filming weddings or even commercial work? Today, I hope to answer these questions, and I'm going to do it in two ways. First, I'm going to show you the real-world usage for how I use this camera at a wedding that I filmed a short while ago. Second, I'm going to tell you the strengths and weaknesses that I found while using this camera at that wedding. And just as a side note here, I've been planning on making a video about 360 cameras for a long time now. And then recently, Insta360 reached out to me and said, "Hey Matt, do you want to try out one of our cameras?" And I said, yes, that's perfect, because that lines up with exactly what I've been wanting to do. So yes, I did accept this camera for free. I just want you to know that before we jump into this video. So let's get right into it. Leading up to the wedding day, I had all of these ideas that I've had for years about how I could use the Insta360 on a wedding day, and I was finally able to make some of them happen. For me, the first choice was obvious. I've made many behind-the-scenes videos over the years detailing exactly how I film a wedding, and that usually involves me hiring and bringing along a third shooter that films with a third camera everything that I am doing on the wedding day. This has worked great, but I've always had the thought, what if I couldn't hire a second shooter? What if it's a destination wedding? What if it's a last-minute wedding and I still want to film behind the scenes about it, but I do not have a third person? Well, what if I had a camera that was wide enough that I could then film literally everything that I'm filming and also myself while I'm filming the wedding? A camera like the One X. So I bought two accessories to make the One X work with my current shooting setup. First, I bought a tiny camera hot shoe accessory mount so I could mount the Insta360 on top of my camera. I've seen other people do this with a GoPro, and I've been wanting to do it myself, but whenever I think about it, the only way that you could really improve over a GoPro would be, instead of just shooting what's directly in front, shoot everything in 360 with a 360 camera. Pretty cool. Also, the image stabilization of the One X is super good, so even handheld, everything looks very smooth. The second accessory that I bought is a dual handle grip for my Zhiyun Crane 2 that comes with an accessory mount. This way I could mount the One X to the side of my gimbal, because if I added it to the top with the hot shoe mount and my battery grip that I use with my A7S II, it would be way too top heavy. Both of these accessories gave me an awesome amount of versatility and enabled me to capture a wide variety of behind the scenes shots that I wouldn't ever have been able to capture in a BTS before. Plus, you can zoom in really close on my beard in 360, which is cool. I'll link to both of these accessories down in the video description. The hot shoe mount works with any camera that has a hot shoe, and the Crane 2 dual-handed grip actually works with a Ronin S as well. So for you Ronin S users that want a dual handle setup, is a good option. Now, I'm sure some of you are thinking, Matt, are you gonna stop hiring a third shooter for your behind the scenes videos and just use the 360 camera? No, definitely not. I have every intention of still hiring a third shooter because I really value those extra wide angles that you can get from a third person. But I can definitely see myself using the One X as another camera angle that I can use whenever I'm cutting to different angles in a BTS. Also, if I have a destination wedding and I cannot afford to bring along a third shooter for behind the scenes, this is a great option. So that's one use case for you. If you want to film a behind the scenes of a wedding or a commercial shoot, or basically anything else that you want a BTS of for that matter, having a One X and just tossing it on top of a hot shoe or on a gimbal, or basically anywhere else that you want an ultra wide angle view of everything that's going on in a room, I think this is a great camera for a BTS. Now we need to take a minute to talk about the image quality of the One X, because I'm sure there are some of you that are thinking, could I mount the One X on top of my main camera and then use it as a second angle? And to that I would say I would equate the One X's image quality to be pretty close to an earlier model DJI drone or a GoPro from a few generations back. When you keep the One X wide, it looks good, but when you zoom in on the image, it starts to fall apart quickly. You also won't be getting any depth of field from this camera's small sensors, but honestly in 360 you wouldn't really want depth of field anyways. Keep in mind that the One X records in 5.7K resolution, which is very impressive for a camera of this size. But that resolution that is quite high is paired with a 120 megabits per second bitrate, which is comparatively low for that high of a resolution. The camera also shoots in the H.264 video codec, and I can't help but feel that if it recorded in H.265 or at a higher bitrate that it would look much better. 360 cameras are one of the few areas where I feel like we really benefit from having a massively high resolution camera. Resolutions like 8K, 12K, 16K, that is actually viable whenever you are shooting something as wide as 360 video. There are currently 360 cameras that record in these much higher resolutions, but they also come with a much higher price tag than the $400 of the One X. So to sum up the image quality of the One X, I think if you keep things wide, they should look decent, but I would hesitate to mix the footage from this camera with my A7S II, for example, unless I had a very specific use case. Speaking of specific use case, this camera does have one super cool specific feature, and that's called bullet time. Insta360 also sent along this selfie stick that spins that basically makes your footage look like the Matrix. When I was preparing to use this camera at the wedding, I had an idea of how cool it would be to pair the bullet time effect with a colored smoke bomb, where I could have the couple spinning the camera overhead while the smoke swirled around them. I think the concept itself is sound, but both the camera and the environment I chose to film this in were working a bit against me. There was way too much wind on the day before the wedding that I tried to film this with a couple. In an ideal world, I would have been able to set up the smoke canister, then hide so I wasn't in the 360 camera shot as the smoke built up all romantically around the couple and the camera spun around them through the smoke. It was going to look so cool. Unfortunately, the wind kept changing direction, so I had to handhold the smoke canister and constantly move so the smoke kept going over the couple. I am confident though that if you were to try this on a less windy day, you would have much better results. Oh, and I would also try this in the shade too, because while this camera is capable of removing the selfie stick from the shot, it cannot move the shadow of the selfie stick, which was definitely visible in the sunlight. The other thing working against me when trying to get this shot was the One X itself. First, it doesn't let you reframe your shots whenever you're shooting them in bullet time mode, so you have to trust that the camera is recording things correctly. The first time I tested this, the camera's orientation was wrong and it began flipping the bullet time shot, and I had no way of correcting it. Thankfully, I tested this beforehand before using the smoke canister, but if you're in a hurry, this is something you could miss and cause an issue. Another issue with the One X in bullet time mode is that the resolution drops to 3K so it can shoot at 100 frames per second. While that frame rate and resolution is very impressive to me, especially in a camera this small, the bitrate is still not high enough, so the image starts to fall apart quickly. Also, speaking of the image quality falling apart, let's talk about my last idea for how to use the One X on a wedding day. I had this vision in my head for how cool it would look if, as the couple was exiting their wedding reception, with sparklers lighting them up on either side, they could hold up the One X with a selfie stick and get a bullet time shot of themselves kissing. What's cool is that I managed to pull it off. What's not cool is that the image quality and the low light performance made the camera footage barely usable. And also, as a side note, for those of you that are worrying that I hogged the exit all to myself, I spoke to the photographer beforehand and told her, hey, I've got this selfie stick bullet time 360 camera thing. Is it cool if we try this? And she was cool with it, especially because we had the couple go through the exit twice. So they walked down once with the sparklers and we filmed them normally with our cameras. Then they went back and they did it with the selfie camera. So nothing to worry about there. I did not hog the entire wedding exit. Also, the groom was 6'5", and with the selfie stick above his head, it was like almost 8 feet, so I wasn't really worried about him hitting anybody. I felt pretty safe about it. But if you are trying to replicate this shot at a wedding, I would definitely make sure that you're safe about it. I really love this shot and the concept, but like I said, the image quality definitely began to fall apart whenever I maxed out the ISO of the One X at ISO 6400. For comparison, with my Sony a7S II, the exit looked great, but that's also because I was shooting at f1.4 and ISO 10,000. It was definitely dark outside. So if you are thinking about doing a shot like this at a wedding exit, don't let the noisiness of my shot dissuade you. I am sure that this was as dark as most wedding exits come, and if you have a brighter exit with more venue lights, if maybe the sun is setting, if there's more light than just moonlight and stars, you will probably have a better image than what I was able to record. So in conclusion, is it time to buy a 360 camera for use at weddings or commercial shoots or anything else for that matter, or are these cameras really just a gimmick? Well, I would say it really depends on your use case and scenario. If you have a specific use for this camera, such as filming a behind the scenes where you know you're going to be using this camera many times and often, then I would definitely recommend picking one up. But if you have a smaller concept like a bullet time smoke effect or one wedding that you want to try it on, then I would probably recommend renting a camera like this instead of spending $400. I also want to look to the future, because if companies like Insta360 keep innovating with higher resolution, better battery life, a higher bit rate, better low light, maybe bigger sensors, I really question whether I would ever purchase a GoPro or an Osmo Action over something like a One X. Because why would I settle for filming one angle if I could film all of the angles? Pretty cool concept. With that, thank you so much for watching. Also, if you're interested in seeing how your computer can handle editing some 360 footage, I have a link down in the description to download some free Insta360 One X video clips that I filmed. Leave me a comment and let me know if your computer is actually capable of editing them. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.